All right,
Good evening, everyone.
recording.
Good evening, everyone. This is Jen Hahuth, Chairman of the Conservation Commission, acting as the Inland Wetland Commission tonight, February 3rd. And that's my call to order. We have here with us myself, Charlie Rowan, Nelson North, Luke Thomas, and Dabney Bowen, all full members, okay? Right, there's no one else, right? Okay. We're going to start with Roman numeral 3, bills and communications. Roman numeral 3A, approval of meeting minutes of January 6, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve? Anyone?
I'll start first. Sure. I have a motion. Luke Thomas.
Second.
Okay.
Discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? I'll say opposed just to make sure. Okay. All right. Item number B, approval of recording secretary's bill of January 6, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
Moved.
I'll second.
Do I have a second? Discussion?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. Item C, unfortunately, Jones resigned. But we're happy to have Gerald Alessi join us and Luke Thomas. So welcome. Welcome, Luke, again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, moving on to Roman numeral 4. Inland Wetlands Legal Enforcement Action. Item 1, continue from October 7th, November 4th, December 2nd, 2020, and January 6th, 2021. The show cause violation hearing, cease and desist correct order, 1081 Reading Road, Abby M. Taylor, trustee, assessors map 221, parcel 29, channelization of stream course and filling of wetland soil and filling within a floodplain. Staff recommends upholding cease and desist order. Annette? You gotta.
Annette, you have to unmute.
Sorry about that. I know that we're going to ask you to table this tonight. I know it looks like it's been going on for a while, but it's really not that long. We are working with the, well, I guess the violator and their consultant on the restoration plan, and we're in agreement now. We're working together. And with the weather, this is a little complication, but things are moving along now.
Okay. Any questions, anyone? All right, so I have a motion to table.
Motion to table.
Motion,
Seconded.
discussion. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Roman numeral 5, in the wetlands deliberative session. Item A1, old business. IWPA 2020-21-06. De Laurentiis Developments 918 and 934 Mill Plain Road. Assessors map 179, parcels 77 and 77A. Demolish existing house and barn and construct 2 dwellings within a regulated area. Staff recommends approval with conditions. So, Annette, go ahead.
We prepared a staff recommendation. It's in your, with your agenda dated January 14th. And these are technically 2 separate lots. They did a lot split. There's an existing house and a separate barn on the property to be demolished, and they're proposing 2 new houses to be built up by the street. We're recommending it with actually very few conditions for erosion controls, as if each lot was to be developed separately. It is proposed to be developed by the same developer at the same time, but you never know what happens. And to check the barn soil. Some of the barn has a concrete floor, but some of the barn has a dirt floor. So there's relatively standard conditions for this kind of situation. So we would recommend it with those conditions and staff recommendations.
Does anyone have any questions for Annette? And Annette, this is not a public hearing, so we're not going to hear from anyone.
But no public hearing on this.
Okay. No questions, anyone? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve IWPA 2020-21-06?
Motion. So moved.
That's a second. Okay.
Second.
Discussion? No? Okay.
It's pretty standard.
Ready to vote? Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Okay, we ready to vote? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Roman numeral 5, item 2. IWPA 2020-21-07. Fallon Esquire, 22 Brett Road, Assessor's Map 168, Parcel 40. Construct new dwelling and subsurface sewage disposal system within a regulated area. Staff recommends tabling pending departmental review. Go ahead.
Ned Jacobson, this was on your agenda last month for receipt, and you were waiting to see if the applicant would offer a conservation easement. And I've talked with John Fallon Esquire. I have an email that they are offering a conservation easement. I don't have it on a plan, but they are offering a conservation easement, so I'm recommending we table this. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And I would bring this to you with a recommendation at the March 3rd meeting. So it doesn't need a public hearing.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Annette? Do we have a motion to table IWPA 2020-21-07?
Motion.
So moved.
Okay, discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay. Roman numeral 5, no. Okay, new business. E-1, proposed budget, status. We doing that one?
Nothing's really new. We're waiting to find out when Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance schedules will be, but nothing's new on that.
Okay. And item 2, request for release of performance bond. Staff recommends approval by general consent of the following performance bond releases due to satisfactory completion or partial completion of permit requirements. IWP 2017-18-07, 3-2 Development LLC, 272 Fairfield Beach Road, demo existing house to construct new house within regulated area. Request of Lucas Papageorge for final release of $9,900. Annette?
So the work is done. Everything was stabilized before the snow. So we're recommending the full release on this. We won't have more bond releases with the cover if we can't see the ground. Also, bond releases are kind of the last things that we do when we're kind of pressed for time. We focus on the things that have time limits. So unless we're out there at the same time as a CO, if everything's not ready with the CO, the bond releases kind of get pushed back. But this one is ready to go.
So does that mean that a CO was issued? Does that mean a CO was issued?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or at least they requested it, whether they got the final sign up, but we were ready to sign.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to release of the performance bond, $9,900?
So moved.
Okay, discussion. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item 3, monthly wetlands business update for the agency. Is there anything anyone has questions about, or Annette you want to talk about?
We're busy. Very, very busy.
Yeah. See that. All right. No questions, anyone? Okay. All right. Moving on. Roman numeral 6, new application. 6.1, IWPA 2020-21-09, Rush 399 Riverside Drive, Assessor's Map 130, Parcel 39, demolish existing dwelling and construct new dwelling within a regulated area. Application type non-significant. Staff recommends tabling pending legal notice and departmental review.
So this application, they're proposing to demolish the house and build a new one substantially in the same place as the existing house. All new houses do get a little bit larger, but substantially where the existing house is. So we would recommend that it doesn't need a public hearing, that it could just be a non-significant application. You can't approve it tonight because you're just receiving it. The legal notice has to run. So we would ask you to table it and await the departmental review.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to table IWPA 2020-21-09?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Was there one?
Second.
Was there? Okay. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. On to our public hearing. Roman numeral 7. Violation IWPA 2020-21-08. The Patterson Club, Inc., 1118 Cross Highway, Assessor's Map 220, Parcel 23, resolve wetland and watercourse violation, holes 3 and 4 near Merwin's Lane, restore plantings, and regrade stabilize within a regulated area. Staff recommends approval with conditions. Okay, Annette.
Well, typically the applicant would make their presentation, then staff would make a presentation, and you would open it up then for commission questions and the public. Whatever you would like to do, whatever order. Typically the applicant would make a presentation now.
Okay, I thought that's fine. Then Attorney Fitzpatrick, please go right ahead.
Madam Chair, can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Fitzpatrick, Frey and Bologna. We have offices at 1735 Post Road. I'm here this evening representing the Patterson Club relative to the resolution of an inland wetland violation. Patterson Club is located on Cross Highway, with the clubhouse and the golf course located north of Cross Highway on a parcel of about 165 acres. By way of background, the Patterson Club was opened in 1946, and at that point was an amenity for GE executives and was subsequently transferred to the club membership in 1968. The Patterson Club Golf Course, opened in 1947, has subsequently been modified and improved on various times. A golf course is recognized in the Inland Wetland Regulations, Section 4.2B as in boy, as a non-regulated use, along with other outdoor recreation uses, provided they do not disturb the natural and indigenous character of a wetland or watercourse. That being said, the applicant here concedes that the clearing of the foliage and vines to the rear of the third green, adjacent to Merwin's Lane, was in considerable part in wetlands and as such constitutes a violation. It should be noted that upon confirmation of the violation, the applicant proceeded to stabilize the conditions on site in accordance with the guidance of the conservation staff. The applicant recognizes the intrusive nature of this action and has cooperated with the Conservation Department staff in order to reach an appropriate resolution, which is addressed in a comprehensive plan submitted to the Commission, prepared by William Kenny Associates. Included in the conservation staff recommendation for approval with conditions is the resolution of additional removal of vegetation and trees to the east of the stream on number 3 and to the south of the T on number 6. In sum, what is proposed here is a comprehensive resolution of the outstanding inland wetland issues with appropriate conditions and bonding as required to ensure the completion of the components of the resolution. The detailed recommendation prepared by the conservation staff includes many components, several of which will be further detailed in plans to be submitted and reviewed by the conservation staff. There is only one item that the applicant has an issue with and one additional proposed change, which I think is pretty remarkable given the many detailed items that comprise the recommendation. The item in question is on page 11 and is specific condition of approval, paragraph 2B as in boy. This condition states, and I quote, "Site restoration replanting shall be completed prior to work on tees, bunkers, relocating cart paths, etc." End quote. All the applicant is requesting is that the words "prior to" be replaced with the words "simultaneously with." So all we're looking to do is have it say site restoration replanting shall be completed simultaneously with work on tees, bunkers, relocating cart paths, etc. The applicant is simply requesting the opportunity to do the site restoration replanting at the same time the work is being done on the tees and bunkers, etc. In addition, as a result of that proposed language change, the time period set forth in 2A immediately above 2B can be reduced from 6 months to 3 months. These changes permit a more efficient resolution of the outstanding issues in a shorter time frame. The reasoning for these requests is that very often the applicant wishes to utilize native local plants to accomplish the replanting, and those plantings may not be available until later in the spring. The applicant would like to complete the proposed work as well as the planting simultaneously, which I think makes sense given the Conservation Department and the Commission's interest in resolving this matter as soon as possible. Now, forcing the applicant to wait to complete the other work in the immediate area of number 3 until after completion of the replanting on number 3 will inevitably make the process longer, and I don't think that's productive for the property, the town, or the applicant. At this point, Madam Chair, to outline the plans more specifically, I'd like to introduce Mr. William Kenny. Bill Kenny has appeared before your commission on many occasions. He's a soil scientist, a landscape architect, and a professional wetland scientist. Bill.
Hi.
Thanks, Bill. Hi, my name is Bill Kenny. I'm a professional wetland scientist, soil scientist, and landscape architect. is, Annette, will you be making the drawing available, or should I share my screen? I can
Is
go.
she there?
Yeah, I had to unmute, sorry. I can, give me a second.
Or I'm pleased to do it. I just, whatever your procedure you prefer.
Since this is our first time doing it, we don't have a procedure, so whatever you want to do is fine.
I'll give it a shot. Let me see what happens here.
Oh, good.
Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. So this drawing has, in the top right-hand corner shows the overall Patterson Club with Cross Highway down at the southern end. South is to the bottom of the sheet. And so the clubhouse would be at the southern end, Cross Highway, some paddle courts and so forth in that area. And then the remainder of the course is north of that. And Merwin's Lane runs along the left side or west side. And it's this gray area, right? This corner that is the area that is shown in greater detail right here. And that's the area where vegetation was removed without your permission. So if we now look at the larger plan, you have Merwin's Lane right here on the west, on the left. The property boundary for the club runs right here. There's a private residential property just to the south here. You have on the course, on the golf course, as you would expect, there's many man-made ponds and streams that run through these. And you're looking at a portion of one of those ponds on the north here, and a stream runs out, and there's another smaller pond right here. And then the stream flows south off the property. This is the green for hole T. The T for hole 3. This is the T for hole 4. So the T for hole 3 is here, so they play in this direction. So the vegetation removal occurred most recently right in this area here between the private property to the south and the hole 3 green. So primarily trees were removed from this area. And then based on a review that Annette did of aerial photography in the past, some other trees have been removed from this area. What's very important is there's no evidence of any wetlands being filled. It's really the work is limited to vegetation removal. Also, what's really important, I believe, from a wetlands perspective, is that there's no
Quick question.
increase. Sure.
How many square feet? I was having trouble determining that from the map. And how many square feet of the trees were removed or acreage?
You could hold 1 second. This area right here is about 24,000 square feet of area that was worked, where vegetation was removed.
A half acre.
Yes.
Yeah.
A little more than a half acre. Yep. So the golf course features the lawn areas were not expanded, which and they're not proposed to be expanded. And from a wetlands perspective, that's important because of the maintenance or the habitat. Obviously, value of that is not a good thing compared to a naturalized area. So the course proposes to replant this area and continue to maintain it as a naturalized area. We're working. The club is also agreeing to putting in some demarcation features, low fence or other feature between the green and the bunkers here, the fairway. So there'd be a demarcation feature between that and this area that's being replanted, so that it's clear that no maintenance is to occur in that area except for removal of invasive plants and things like that. Another important piece of this is that this area right here is currently, and has been maintained as lawn for many decades. And the club has agreed to remove the lawn from here, which is really helpful because that's right against the stream. So that's going to be converted to a meadow habitat, which is the habitat that's shown here as well. So I think, yeah, the main points are that the unauthorized activities were limited to clearing. The proposed activities are replanting, maintaining the areas as natural areas, not expanding the lawn areas of the golf course, and just replanting and maintaining those areas as naturalized. Please answer any questions anyone might have.
I have a few questions, Mr. Kenny.
Sure.
It's Dabney Bowen. So are you saying that that you are going to be extending the meadow area west towards the stream bed there?
That's correct.
Okay. And what was the reason for removing the vegetation on the south side of the property in the first place?
Right. So with the primary reason is to get more sunlight on the greens and more air movement. This course, when it was first built, these trees weren't here. It was an old farm. And so over the decades, these trees have grown, and they got to a point where they were casting so much shade and blocking wind that there was a lot of problems with the turf not being of good quality. And by getting more sunlight and more breezes through that area, there's less need for pesticides and things like that. So you can really reduce the amount of, you have a much healthier lawn. And so the meadow habitat's just a general point to make is that as has happened here at the course, many meadow areas over the last 50 to 75 years have been converted to forest areas in Fairfield and surrounding areas. And so the meadow habitat is actually quite rare, and I think it's actually a good thing to have a property like this in town where they're maintaining quite a large area of meadow throughout the property. So I think that's a good thing overall.
And then one last question. You mentioned a low fence or some kind of structure delineating the area where the restoration is going to occur to keep any further maintenance from happening there. Are you suggesting that if you didn't put in some kind of structure there, that the mowers would come in? Is that what you're trying to prevent?
That's what we're trying to prevent, right? Yes, and it's a common thing done by the agency, and we've worked with the net on many projects over the years, including some sort of commonly known as a demarcation feature, whether it be a fence or row of boulders or some other physical feature.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dabney.
Yeah, I have a couple more questions. It says hole 3 green to remain, and it says fairway to remain, but that's demarcated as a wetland. Was that disturbed in December as well, or is that a pre-existing violation?
So this area right here, just north of the green?
Yeah.
Yes, so that is a pre-existing condition and happened long before the wetland regulations went into effect. So it's a grandfathered activity.
Not grandfathered. Okay. That happened prior. So let me say, I'm just trying to square it. Yeah, I'm still trying to square this away. So we have the wooded swamp, which is sort of half acre. Then we have something on a third green, and an additional cutting was done by the 6 tee box, and these are all combined. So it's 3. With all these events done separately or together or within a very close time frame, or is this completely separate and distinct activities?
Mr. Patrick, do you have the?
I can address that, Commissioner. The work on number 6 was done more or less at the same time as the violation to the rear of the third green. The work on the east side of the pond on number 3 was done 8 or 10 years ago, some period of time like that. And Annette brought that up to us through the use of aerial photography.
Okay. So this, and I have a question about the nomenclature. It's called a wetland mitigation plan and enhancement. I would prefer to have this called a restoration and make clear on the maps that this is a restoration and not an enhancement.
Perhaps restoration and remediation.
Yeah, because there's an important distinction between an enhancement and a restoration, and I think it's important that we identify that.
Agreed.
I don't see any problem with that. The plan has a bit of both. Mostly restoration, but there is the enhancement there. So,
which to me, a restoration also, it's not a one and done. It's a monitor. You know, as you know, you monitor it over 10 years possibly to make sure the functions and values that have been restored are continue in the future. So I think that's important to note.
I think the issue may be also that we can't fully restore the wetland at this point, which is what Annette will speak to.
Right, okay, and I'll wait for that because I have questions about that as well.
Okay. Can I ask a question about the drainage from the T into the to the impacted wetland soil area off of Merwin's? Is that still going to drain the drainage from that T as it is now?
the reference to this drainage here?
Yes.
Yes. So there was there's an existing system there that basically they're replacing it, upgrading it with new piping, and
Okay.
we're going to provide
So
additional information regarding that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question, and I apologize. This is my first real question on this commission, so if it's silly in any way, I'll apologize in advance. Mr. Kenny, Luke Thomas here. I'm new to the commission. I wanted to ask, the trees that were cut down in that southern area, how long were they there? I know they just grew on their own, but how long were they there?
The course, so sometime in the 40s?
1947.
1947.
All right. And now maybe I'm not clear on how this is going to happen. What's going to go in there? What size trees are going to go in there?
Sure. We have the circles that are indicated here are proposed trees. And then we have a plant list where we have specified the size at installation.
Okay.
Yep.
I apologize. I couldn't see that. Okay.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Annette?
it was just,
Oh.
one more question, yeah.
Okay.
The wetland, it was a wooded swamp, right? It wasn't, like what type of wetland?
It was a woodland edge right.
Okay. Are you finished, Attorney Fitzpatrick? You're all set?
If I could just offer a few more comments, Madam Chair. Thank you, Bill. The restoration plan prepared by William Kenny outlines the work we're proposing to do. Details on other anticipated work will be fleshed out, plans submitted to the satisfaction of the Conservation Department staff. This process has been a cooperative effort to resolve issues that require the club's attention. I outlined the two conditions I was looking to changing the time of completion from 6 months to 3 months, and permitting the work to go simultaneously with instead of prior to. We're asking if the application be approved in accordance with the detailed recommendation with conditions that the staff has proposed. We agree with the staff's conclusion that with the submitted, that approved with conditions as required through standard and specific conditions, the proposed restoration will mitigate any anticipated adverse impacts of the proposal on the regulated area. We would appreciate a decision by the commission tonight so we can move forward. Mr. Cronin, a member of the Patterson Club Board of Directors, is on this call. Mr. Kenny, Mr. Cronin, and I will be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Okay, Annette. Annette, are you there?
I'm here. Just had to do my mute and unmute. Sorry. Getting used to all this. For those that don't know me, I'm the conservation administrator. I've been with the town since 1983. First as wetlands compliance officer, and since 1989 as the conservation administrator, which title is part wetlands administrator and assistant conservation director. I have a bachelor's of science degree from the University of Connecticut in natural resource conservation, and a master's of science degree in environmental science from the University of New Haven, with emphasis on the ecology of inland wetlands. I prepared a written staff recommendation for the Patterson Club dated January 26, 2021, and my comments this evening will be a brief summary of that document. Nutshell version is I sent the notice of violation for much of the activity on December 8th, 2020. That violation action is separate, and that violation action is held in abeyance while this application for a wetland permit is pursued. So we don't release that violation action unless and until you approve a wetland permit, and the wetland permit, if it's approved, gets finally undertaken in the field and finally resolved. And if it is finally resolved, then you release the violation. So after the notice of violation was sent by staff, and after this wetland permit application was submitted, then staff became aware of the disturbance in the 6 tee box area. So I was unaware of it, and that's why it was not submitted on the plan. So it didn't come in, it wasn't submitted on the plans, and I did not know about it. So that's why it's was not on plans submitted before you. So I apologize for that. But I hopefully tried to explain in the permit application about that area and why it should be included in this application. The whole course was legally noticed, and you can discuss any part of the course and include those areas. It's legally valid to make those adjustments in the application. So part of the application is for work that the club wanted to do on the third green to fill in the sand bunkers, to elongate the tee boxes. I'm learning all these golf terms, so trying to say the appropriate titles for them. Tee boxes and greens and sand bunkers. And they're relocating the cart path. All of those relatively that minor work is fine and can be done. It's not that it's inconsequential, but it can be done without harm to the wetland areas. If this was an application that came in for those items alone ahead of time, we could have found a way to do those activities without changing the wetlands. But because we're reviewing this after the activity has already been taken, it's reviewed a different way. So the disturbance that happened is, and I'm going to try and point to, can you still see Bill Kenny's plan on the screen? Okay. Mm-hmm. So this southern area that has the red cross hatch, there's a W line in there. It's a little bit curvy within that red area. So that's an indication for wetland soil. There's some wetland and there's some upland in there as well. But I substantially was calling it a red maple wooded swamp area. Now you have an upland review regulated area. Your jurisdiction technically is the whole golf course, because a property is regulated once it contains a water course, a wetland soil, or the upland review regulated area. And this whole southern area was clear cut. There was no vegetation in it. They even stumped areas. So in my view, to restore that area, you restore the wetland soil and a buffer area, because wetlands don't exist in violation. So to me, that red crosshatch area should be fully replanted, and it shouldn't have meadow in it. It should be replanted. You can't replant mature trees. They're not going to be the height they were. They're not going to, so man does the best it can by replanting, but it shouldn't be meadow. It should be replanted with trees, shrubs, ferns, canopy, shrub layer, herb layer, and then leave it alone as best you can. Don't mow it. Don't have people going in there unless there were invasive. And I don't want necessarily the golf course people with mowers to, although meadow is a habitat value, they can have meadows in other areas. Just leave that one alone once it's replanted. Then in this area south of the green, those were the sand bunkers that were filled. So they had disturbed this edge of the stream. That's the west side of the stream in the area that they had disturbance. I wanted a little buffer at the edge of the stream in this area to filter the runoff coming off the green or the green edge area where there might be chemical use, or so that western area should have a small meadow area in that area. So that should be cross-hatched just like this meadow. The same things that would be planted in this meadow area would be planted in this meadow area. And we talked in the field about that. This is a very small old bridge in this area that's pretty much now a bridge to nowhere, not needed. This is the cart path that is used. All right, so this area had been substantially clear cut. There's a few trees up in this area that still exist, but this was densely wooded, this whole area. And they would need detention, and it can be meadows. And conversion from a woodland to meadow is not like converting it to impervious surface. So that can be more easily done with the rain garden or biofiltration soil, and a lot of it is upland. So there's a little bit of wetland right in this corner, but most of this is upland. So that's relatively easily done. So we're on the same page, conceptually in agreement, no problems with that. So I don't have a problem with with our discussions with them, what they're proposing. I think it can all be worked out easily. On the 6T area, which if you give me a second, I can see if I can get that plan to share. Yep.
Annette, would you like me to stop sharing my screen?
Yes.
Let's see.
I think if I have to go back. Ah, there it is. Can you guys see this now? Does anybody see what I see on my screen?
It's coming up. Yes, we see it.
Yeah, you can see it. Mhm.
Yay. Okay. So this is the 6T box, and this is the wetlands area. So this is the area that had been cleared. Again, if this was proposed for a wetland permit before the work was done, this could have been a staff certificate, because the staff can approve things that don't actually touch the wetland or the stream. They're just near these areas. But this area was clear cut and stumped. But now this can be combined in this wetland permit. So again, it was just, when you're converting cover types of woodland to lawn, or a woodland to meadow, or a woodland to impervious surfaces, which they're not proposing, you need to have stormwater detention, which in this case can be a rain garden or a biofiltration swale, but relatively easily addressed, because it's all going to be not undeveloped. So that can be done in revised plans. Would anybody like to keep looking at this? Because I can move on now. So, so in my staff review, I actually made a mistake. I forget what page it's on, but when I was talking about the conversion of the woodlands to meadow, I had said on the west side of the stream, and that should have said on the east side of the stream, except for that little narrow band just to the east of the sand bunkers. That was the narrow strip on the west side of the stream, but the bigger area of the formerly cut down woodlands, that's on the east side of the stream. So I have recommended, since the wetland area predominantly along Merwin's Lane, is that southern area had already been clear cut and disturbed, I was recommending that the best thing at this point was to restore it, get the revised plans, get a bond, get the stormwater detention with that fencing delineation, and start to get it. Why hold it up, wait time now, because we didn't have the snowstorm when I wrote it, and go forward and get everything finalized. And the best thing for the area was to just move forward. So that's why I wrote the approval. It should just get done. That's the best thing at this point, is to restore it. So I didn't put any long-term monitoring in this recommendation. I didn't put anything for a conservation easement. The trees are not, height is not specified on Bill Kenny's plan. He did put in that the trees had to be 2.5 to 3 inch caliber, but he did not specify a height. Obviously, they cannot be, mature, full height trees. You can never restore an area to maturity when you're just replanting. That's why you can't replace what has been taken down. But I felt overall we could get a restoration. And that's substantially my presentation. I'd be happy to answer your question.
I have one more question for Mr. Kenny or any of the other Patterson guests. Is this where there was a fan that was installed for some time to air out the grass on one of the greens? Is this that area?
It is not.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, where was that fan?
The fifth green.
The fifth green.
It's considerably to the east of the eastern edge of the property.
Okay. But just to be clear, the reason for the removal of the trees was to let more sunlight in so that...
More sunlight and air so the tea and green could grow better. And quite frankly, the Patterson Club, we lost our president to a falling tree limb in one of these windstorms. And as a result, the club pays very close attention to these damaged or dead or dying trees. And there were some trees in there that were not in good shape.
Okay. And that's sort of where I was about to ask. I'm like, why is this outcome so different than previous wetland? I mean, from this, it looks like that the club filed applications timely and, worked with the town. And this just sort of seems out of character.
The superintendent, it's fair to say, got carried away.
Right. But somebody had to approve it, though. I mean, I'm sure it's not cheap.
This is Bill Cronin, if I might, Mr. Commissioner, just to add something in. There was a number of things. It was one of the hottest Julys on record, as Bill Fitzpatrick said. There is a sensitivity to trees, fallen limbs, and so forth, and some of them were within an area where either staff or members would be at some level of peril. We took more than that, clearly. And I think, besides the hottest July, you had an enormous amount of storm damage. I don't know if people remember, but there was a storm that came through during the summer. And it was, people think about Sandy and so forth, but in terms of damage to the course, that was actually as bad as any we've had. So we had well over $100,000 worth of tree damage, limbs, split trees, and so forth. Some old ashes that are already sort of dying or on their way. So in terms of we're trying to create, it's in also a part of the course that they call Devil's Hollow, which is a little bit lower and doesn't get the airflow. So you had a number of conditions. You had a sensitivity with the loss of our president. You had a year where it was completely hot and we were losing tees and greens. You had storm damage, which took down some trees and made others more dangerous. And quite frankly, a plan that wasn't executed as good as it should have been because too much was taken in areas that it shouldn't have been taken, specifically without prior discussion. So we understand that it is out of character and want to remediate and have worked as closely with Ms. Jacobson as possible and feel that we have a good plan that hopefully will meet the town's requirements and also help in certain cases with our issues. Also, areas that were important to the town in terms of areas that were closer to waterways, giving back those areas and make them sort of a restricted zone. Again, the fence work and so forth. So we realized we were a step out of bounds. There's some reasoning behind it, but it's not good enough reasoning, and realize that we need to make these changes. And there's many things that we do at the club. We just had a long talk with the Audubon about doing some work along our ninth hole that backs up to one of their properties, and we had them and a leaseholder and our staff and our general manager out. And there's a number of things that we're doing in terms of this sort of pollinator highway that, you know, is many areas that we just can't find anywhere else in the town, and we continue to work on that sort of a thing. So I think the characterization one of the commissioners had, that it's a little out of character, I think is correct, and one that we will remediate.
Mr. Cronin, with all due respect, I mean, I understand the club sensitivities when the president died, I believe, at his own residence. I think that this commission would have preferred to have seen you deadwood and maintain the trees as needed, as opposed to just cutting them down.
Sure.
And I just wonder why that wasn't part of the plan to begin with. If that was the concern, if the concern truly was to prevent falling limbs and falling trees, especially due to the sensitivities of losing the president, then why not just maintain for deadwood and risk?
Yeah, as I said, it's a fair point, but there's a number of things, you know, in terms of, you know, we were looking for, there's different ways to try and improve, you know, sort of the conditions or the key conditions of the course. And one of them is airflow. One of them is sunlight. You know, specifically like 3 green. There are times when you go out there and, you know, there's just no sunlight whatsoever on it. And some of it is weak and dying. So there was, certainly that was a area that we were trying to benefit by making some changes to allow air and light in. So that is some of the reasoning behind it.
Any other questions, commission members? Annette, I did want to ask you a question, if I could. Are you there?
Yep.
Okay. Just on the proposed change to specific condition to A and B, are you confident that it's actually 2B? You're confident the site restoration, replanting, and the work on the tees, bunkers, or relocating cart paths can be done at the same time? You can work with the applicants on that, and that'll work out?
Yeah, we can work with that. That's fine.
Okay.
I also have a question for Annette. Annette, does conservation have a definition, a formal definition for meadow that can be used as a guideline for the club when they're performing these conditions?
Typical conditions that we put on permits usually says mowing no more than once or twice per year. We don't have a definition that I can say, a specific definition from this board, other than conditions we put on usually say mowing not more than twice per year.
Okay.
Any members of the public wish to speak? Is there anyone? Okay. That's it. Attorney Fitzpatrick, you're all set?
I have nothing further, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Are we certain, do we ask Sarah if she checks with public or I just
Oh,
because
for
it's the
public?
first WebEx, I just want to make sure.
Okay. All right. She's on, right? She heard me.
Quick.
Yeah, no, I'm here. There's a couple people listening. I don't know if anyone else wants to make a comment. They can put their name in the chat and then we can call on them to speak.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure because it's our first one.
Yeah,
No,
no,
okay.
I think
I'm looking at the chat. I
anyone
don't
who
see
wanted to
anybody.
talk did.
Okay, and I don't need a motion, do I? I can just close the public hearing. Right? Okay. Gavel, closed. The public hearing portion is closed. Thank you, everyone. Commissioners, are we ready to vote tonight? Would you like to vote on this? I know the Annette and the Attorney Fitzpatrick are suggesting that we do.
Can I get clarity from Annette on one more thing? The on item 1E on the specific conditions, is that where the error was made to say where it should say east side? Or is that in fact the west side? What I'm trying to find out is if the expansion of the meadow along the third green on the east side is included in these specific conditions.
Yeah.
1E is correct because that's east of the sand bunkers to be filled. So that,
Okay.
that one is correct. It's on the west side of the stream on the east side of the sand bunkers. For sure where I made the mistake is on page 6 of the staff recommendation at the bottom of page 6 on that underlined portion, conversion of woodland to meadow. It should say east of the stream, across
Oh,
on the
right.
third instead of west. But I double checked the conditions.
So the expansion of the meadow along the third green on the east side of the stream is not included in the conditions. Is that correct? Oh, no, I see it. Never mind. Is that H? Hold on. So maybe Mr. Kinney can shed some light. Is H referring to the expansion of the meadow along the third green?
Right, I believe so.
My understanding is that condition 1E, that was where the typo was. That was my understanding. That was referencing the area east of the stream. And F,
Why?
it's both E and F are related.
No, E, sorry. E is the little strip right where the sand bunkers
Okay.
to be
Right.
filled are.
Okay.
It's on the west side of the stream, but east of the sand bunkers.
Okay, so if the expansion of the meadow on the east side of the stream is going to be included as part of what the club is proposing, then it should be included in the conditions.
But H is sort of, Bill, where they, where the woodland was on the east side of the stream.
Okay.
It's kind of meadowy now, but they didn't have detention for it. They cleared the trees. It's meadowy now, but they didn't have detention for conversion to meadow.
Okay, but on the map, it says watercourse buffer and wetland enhancement replace 4,900 square feet of lawn with native meadow.
Okay, that's the red crosshatch on the
Right.
east side. But if you go further east than that, where it says the words meadow and trees,
Right?
they have like 5 trees or 6 trees. You can count the trees, whereas it used to be
Yes.
woods. So many
Yes,
trees,
yes.
you could not count them.
What I'm trying to get at is I want to make sure that if they are proposing an expansion of the meadow along the eastern side of the watercourse, that be specified on the conditions.
Okay. the meadow that they're showing in the red crosshatch on the east side of the stream is lawn now. So that's why they're showing meadow there now.
Okay.
But beyond that meadow that they're showing in red crosshatch,
Mm-hmm.
they do have meadow farther east than that. But that meadow that they have that's farther east was a woodland that they didn't have permission to eliminate. And I'm saying that's fine that that's meadow, but they have to have detention for that meadow.
Right.
So that's 1H.
1H, right. Okay, I just want to make sure that we're confident that that the language in 1H clearly states that there's going to be a meadow buffer there along the water course. That's all.
The detention doesn't have to be in that crosshatch meadow area. It could be anywhere in that larger wooded area that was clear cut. I mean, you would think it, because it slopes all down towards the stream, it's more convenient to put it there, but it could be a long, narrow rain garden or biofiltration swale, but it's, there had to be some detention on that east side for that wooded area that was converted.
Okay, Dominique?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Okay. Is that it? For us to vote, I need someone to propose a motion to approve.
I just wanted to.
Go ahead, Charlie. Were you going to say something?
Charlie, we can't hear you.
Sorry. For G, it says continuous fencing and signs. Is that Conservation Commission standard, the split rail, or something equivalent?
Are you asking? You're asking that? Can you say that again, Charlie?
Yeah. For G, with continuous fencing and signs for approximately 420 feet, is that the Conservation Department standard of split rail, or is that, you did mention it briefly, I don't fully recall what you said.
They're talking about a type of split rail, not the usual kind of split rail that we're used to seeing, but I guess on golf courses they use a one rail split rail fence. It's a little bit lower, but I've seen it on the golf course. But they haven't totally decided on it, but it would be along the end of that red crosshatch area and the south area. I wanted a few signs there so that the mowers wouldn't go in there.
Right.
But that's what we were discussing the last time we had a discussion, is like the one rail split rail fence to keep out of that area.
And there was no long-term monitoring for the plantings? For the duration of the permit duration shall be 5 years, but there's no monitoring for the duration of the permit. to make sure everything lives.
I did not include that.
I definitely like to see something along those lines.
It would also be nice if, along with that modern monitoring, we could include in the specific conditions that they manage for invasive species in that area.
Yeah, for the duration of the permit, which would be 5 years.
Okay, question, Annette. What do we do if commissioners want to add specific conditions?
Those
We just do it.
can be added. We can,
Can I ask?
if you want, I could work up the wording right now, or I could just do the wording later into the effect of add a condition that says there should be environmental monitoring at least for the 5-year permit duration, and including invasive species control for that 5-year permit duration.
This is, may I inquire, Madam Chairman, seems to be a last minute addition to specific conditions that Annette had put together. How would the applicant, that's not giving him any time to do anything here. So I think it should be.
That's my question.
So, I mean, if we want to add things to it, it should be by motion. It should be I propose, and then have the commissioners vote. And if it passes, and then otherwise we have to table. This is what's in front of us. We can't just add things that aren't there.
Oh, absolutely, you have to.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, this whole application has been somewhat of a rush. Simply adding permit monitoring for 5 years on top of a rushed application is minimal.
Okay.
Agreed.
I've never seen it happen.
What?
There's nothing for the applicant to prepare for in making 2 minor adjustments. So I agree with Charlie. It's not, if it was something that would require them to do research or look into or prepare for, it'd be one thing. But let's keep in mind, this is a violation that we're dealing with.
I understand it's a violation, but it's also a process. That's why we're here as a board, that we have to vote on things. It was presented to us in a specific way by Annette, who's in the commission office, and then the applicant came and presented their side. Now, if we want to make changes, we should vote on it. It shouldn't just be, okay, Annette, add these things in there because we feel like it.
Well, we were going to vote on it, but I'm not quite sure that it's proper, and because I've never seen this happen last minute like this. So, Attorney Fitzpatrick, would you like to say something?
Madam Chair, I think it's relatively normal to add further conditions of approval. And just by way of an aside, the applicant has no objection to the 2 that have been mentioned.
So it'll be part of whoever makes the motion can add specific conditions 3 and 4, or whatever Annette's language is going to be, if she can read it out, and we can vote on it.
Really smirking too. It's funny. He knows, because the guy who said that at the very beginning said, "This is my."
Okay. Luke?
And then I want to be clear about, I guess, about 2A and 2B. Is that going to be amended? Is that something that we put in the motion as well? Okay.
Yes. And that we do that a lot. That happens quite a bit. So thank you, Attorney Fitzpatrick. So, Annette, what would be the language again for, would it be 2 new specific conditions, correct?
To add a specific condition requiring monitoring, environmental monitoring for the wetland permit duration of the restored areas, the wetland restored areas, and to also include in that environmental monitoring invasive species control. And the permit is 5 years, so it's for the 5-year
Okay.
permit duration.
Charlie and Dabney, are you happy with that?
Sounds good.
Yes, that's good.
Attorney Fitzpatrick, that's satisfactory. Does someone want to make a motion so we can discuss?
And
It would be a motion to,
I think you had discussed the 2B changing prior to the simultaneous with.
Do you want it all together?
from 6 to 3 months. Go ahead.
6 months to 3 months in 2A.
Luke, did you want to say something?
I was going to say, I'll make the motion if to add the 2 conditions regarding monitoring and whatever the second one was, I apologize, I forgot, along with 2B being changed to from prior to similar and corresponding to that.
Simultaneous.
Simultaneous, and then 2A to 3 months from 6 months. It would encompass everything we discussed all in one motion, if that's okay.
Absolutely, and you're also in your motion all the standard and other specific conditions as well to be approved, correct?
Yes, everything and those, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Fitzpatrick. Woo!
I'm happy we
Okay.
had our first WebEx meeting.
Yeah, so we have one last agenda item, correct? It's other. Am I right? Is there any other business? Item, Roman numeral 8. Any
8.
other business? Nothing else in that?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. All right, well, do I have a motion to adjourn? Anyone? I'll adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. That was excellent. All right.